welcome to the February 4th, 2025 school committee meeting here at the PDC. Just a reminder that these meetings are audio and video recorded. I will officially open this meeting, and we'll start with introductions to my left.
Evan Cody.
Rick Bushman.
Mike Woodlock, Assistant Superintendent.
Hi, Mike Flanagan, Superintendent.
Rob Mullen.
Becky Stanton.
Hi, Joe Bassina, School Business Administrator.
Thank you, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you, everyone. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the January 21st, 2025 school committee minutes, the January 21, 2025 executive session minutes, and the January 28th, 2025 budget subcommittee minutes.
I make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 4-0-0. Citizens' time. Seeing none. Correspondence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to bring your attention to two items in your drive tonight. One is the official legislative platform for the Mass Association of School Superintendents. As you know, I serve in the legislative committee with Superintendent Lang from Chelmsford. We represent the greater Merrimack Valley. And this legislation is our official position for this new legislative cycle. And there are three pieces of legislation that the Superintendent Association specifically is filing. Now, there are other pieces of legislation that we're monitoring and or supporting, but these are three specific bills that we are filed. The first one is called an act relative to the long-term fiscal health and sustainability of special education. Essentially, as we know, circuit breaker reimbursement for both tuition and transportation hasn't come into the full threshold yet. This is our pledge, or this is our hope, to increase the reimbursement funding level from 75% to 90%. The second piece of legislation talks about the promise of education reform. Essentially, this is a piece of legislation that encourages the state legislature to provide opportunities and pathways for us to hire a more diverse workforce, to hire, to better retain our staff, and to somehow incentivize people to get into education, as we see that the numbers are somewhat dwindling there. And the third piece of legislation is called an act to promote healthy culture and climate within schools. I think there was legislation that was passed 3 years ago that really kind of hamstrung building administrators and their ability to do what's best for the school in a timely manner in terms of student discipline. So we're asking for a little more autonomy on the building administrator level so that they can make important decisions to ensure school safety across the board. So that is our legislative platform. Other bills that we're monitoring are also in the drive that I would encourage you to follow up on and read up on, but I just wanted to give that to you as a piece of information. Additionally, in the drive, under correspondence, you will see the official proposal by our Attorney General, and you've probably seen it on the news, a lot of talk about cell phone ban in public schools. The Senate version and the House version both have sponsors behind the Attorney General's platform, but essentially they want to make it a mass general law that cell phones are to, every school district in the Commonwealth is to have a policy that addresses cell phone use in class. It's allowing for a little autonomy within the districts, so they're really kind of tiering it at three different options. One would be a bell-to-bell ban. I think Lowell High has that, where you walk in, you put it in a pouch, and you don't get your cell phone back till the end of the day. Another one talks about an off and away ban, which means a student can keep it on their person, but it's to never be seen at all throughout the day. And another one is talking about a limited use ban, where students would be allowed to use it at, and they're saying just high school students would be allowed to use it at lunchtime or potentially passing time, and they're going to allow some interpretation for each school district. This bill is in its infancy. There's a lot of traction behind it. There's a lot of support behind it. So I would not be surprised if at some point in the next year or so, we're going to come back to this body with a policy to say we have to be in compliance with the state law, and we will have some kind of local control over what that looks like. But at its very early stages, but I know you've probably seen it on the news, so I just wanted to bring it to your attention. So the whole legislation is in the drive for your review. And that's really all I have for correspondence.
All right, thank you. Personnel?
Mr. Chair, we have a couple resignations. Cindy Pelletier, physical therapist at TES after 6 years. Ben Alger, high school TV media teacher, is leaving us as well. We also received notification of intent to retire, potentially at the end of the school year, from Michelle Cerrone, a TES paraprofessional after 6 years of service. So we wish everyone there the best of luck.
Thank you. Share the success. Evan?
Recently, TES sent out a mailing to all kindergarten-eligible families regarding the 2025 to 2026 registration process. Our registration event will take place on Wednesday, February 26th. Our preschool registration is Wednesday, March 5th. Families are encouraged to visit our website and social media for more details. At THS, congratulations to the cast and crew of Into the Woods. They gave an outstanding performance this last weekend. Congratulations to our senior athletes that have been recognized over the past weeks. Thank you for your commitment over the past 4 years. DECA qualified 23 students that will be competing at the DECA State Conference at the end of the month. Last week, 8th grade students met with current THS students to hear about their high school experience. Thank you to our school counselors for organizing this, as well as to our students for sharing their experience. Next Thursday, approximately 30 students will be traveling to Costa Rica. Thank you.
Awesome. I know my kids went to Costa Rica and had a blast, so I hope they do as well. We have no subcommittee updates at this time, so unfinished business, MSBA.
So we'll jump right into the slide deck. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a reminder about upcoming meetings. We have a school building committee meeting next week. We meet Monday, the 24th, a tri-board meeting. That'll be at Town Hall at 6 o'clock. And then we're back on schedule, our regularly scheduled meetings on the 25th, at which point Mr. Messina and I will present our initial budget at that point. So that is what's coming down the pike. As we talk about our MSBA update, we do have a meeting, myself and Brian Johnson and potentially David Sainer from left field. We're going to meet with the TMS staff next week to talk about the move schedule, talk about move preparation, to talk about doing a big push for the cleanout right before February vacation, and then another big push for cleanout right before April vacation. So we're not doing it all in June. So the goal would be that over the next couple of months, we start thinning out the schools, thinning out some of the things that aren't going to make it to the new middle school, and have that conversation. So that's ongoing there. Appreciate Ryan Pike really advocating for additional water testing at the new site. One of the things we want to make sure is that we have all the appropriate filters in place, and he's working with JCJ and left field on that as well. So we want to make sure that we have the necessary filters so that we can extend the life of all our piping throughout the school. So that's where that is. In terms of the school itself, the wood door installations on the second floor are complete. The wood trim work on the second floor and the wainscoting on the second floor is complete. When you see some of the pictures, it really looks incredible. So excited about that. Gym hoops are up. The school board is up. They're working on the divider right now. The gym is all been painted white. So it really is coming together. They are looking at still ongoing the starting up of all the rooftop units and calibrating all the metrics there. Don't ask me what that means or what that looks like. I have no idea, but that's what they tell me, so that's good. And then actually yesterday, they began the installation of the elevator, which is, for any project, is another milestone. So, it's really starting to get exciting as it all comes together. So if we could just run through some pictures. You can see the wood trim above the lockers and the wainscoting on the wall, tying in with the floor. It just looks incredible. It's kind of a warm feel. It almost feels like a hotel when you're walking down the hall. It's really, really pretty neat. Go to the next slide. This is where the splash of color comes in to tie it together. Again, this would be the autumn hallway, the fall hall. So this is actually the 8th grade hallway, which is closest upstairs over here. You can see the display cases installed on the right there as well. You look at the next slide, you can see the transition of the flooring. There's a classroom neighborhood right there. That's the teacher workroom with the red wall, and we'll have all kinds of flexible seating out there along the right for students to congregate and gather and teams to come together. Amazing. This is, on the picture on the left, is the backboards that are in and the school board that is up in the gym. I do believe that we'll be coming back to the school building committee to see if we want to install a second school board in the gym. Most places do that. We only budgeted for one. There is a great deal of contingency fund. The wiring is all there. It's a matter of a simple vote to say, yes, we want to add a second school board. We'll let the school building committee make that decision, but it seems economical to do it at this time. As we look at the picture on the right, that is the main corridor coming in, right from the Norris Road parking lot, all the wood finish along the upper two-story entryway. It looks incredible. And I think that's all we have for pictures, yes. And then I kept this in there just as a reference point. This is the move schedule that we will be meeting with the TMS staff about next week. So all good, all exciting, and it's really impressive in there, so very excited about it. I'm done.
I'm part of the school building, but I'll ask the question anyway. What would be the purpose of a second scoreboard?
For players and coaches at each end.
Okay.
So if I'm coming down, there's 5 seconds left in the game, I don't know that if I don't have the scoreboard to look at.
Would that also allow to divide the gymnasium to 2 playing surfaces
half
and have
court.
2 games going at once?
Could do that.
Oh, that's curious.
Yep.
Thank you. Teaching and learning, Mr. Woodlock.
Thank you. So as promised a couple weeks ago, an update on our SDR, Strategy for District Improvement from each school. I think I've included the full updated versions of what the principals from each school sent. It's in the drive if you want the full version. I've done my best to kind of wean it down a little bit and just give you some highlights from each school. One thing I won't be talking about, because we had a whole presentation on it, that is one of our major priorities for the school year, is the transitions piece, which is littered throughout all of these SDI updates, but I didn't include really much of that at all, except maybe for one bullet with the high school, but you already heard about it. So really quickly, at the elementary school, one of the things that was a priority was for the staff was to get a second wind block there. And they utilize wind block a lot to meet the needs of students who they've identified as maybe not quite at grade level or need a little bit of extra help and practice to get to grade level, or students that need some enrichment or want some enrichment. And then to fill in the blanks with aspects of the curriculum like there may not be meeting during a typical school day, they can use wind block to catch up in a lot of those respects. Additional tiered reading supports and establishing a screener for dyslexia. So if you've known anyone with dyslexia, the earlier you catch it, the more advantageous that can be. And so there's a whole group that's working on that right now and working with the screener to make sure that at-risk students are being tested and they can identify if they have dyslexia, they can begin to implement plans to help them cope with that and overcome it. Expanded and comprehensive pacing guides. This is really curriculum work that the teachers are doing ongoing as the school goes on. Not replacing curriculum mapping, but really providing something that's a lot more user-friendly and can be adjusted from year to year or even unit to unit. That is much more user-friendly. So if we should have new teachers come in, looking at a curriculum map will give you a general idea of scope and sequence. Looking at a pacing guide will tell you exactly what they did the previous year, including units, lessons, and links that are there as well, and focusing on inclusive practices. On the administrative side, really increasing evaluations with action-oriented feedback from staff, so not just giving a blow-by-blow of this is what I saw in your classroom, but this is something that I think you could really build on, or this is an area where I think you need to work on. Really specific, actionable feedback that they can have discussions with staff so that we're not just living with like, this is what we do and this is what we always do. We're always striving to get better, and that starts with the administrators always striving to get better, but pushing the staff to always get better. Knowing and just saying it out loud, we have a great staff that does a great job, but we always want to push each other to get better. And in part of that too is increased calibration amongst the administrators as they give feedback, making sure that we're providing it in a way that everyone's getting something similar, not exactly the same. We want to provide autonomy for our administrators as well, but our staff should know what they should expect when they get observational feedback. And so I think that was a bit of an adjustment at first, but I have to say the elementary school, as well as the middle and high school, have done a really nice job with that. With the middle school, content writing has been established as an area of need that we need to work on, and with our partner, Keys to Literacy, our professional development days have focused quite a bit on writing. One of the things we really wanted to do, and that's really starting to come to fruition now, is calibrate our IXL usage and how we monitor that, using it much more as it was made to be used and not just as an opportunity for students to practice math skills or reading skills. So we're going to see more of that in the next coming weeks and months. Establishing more communication between admin and the counseling department. We identified a need for that to happen, and that has been happening regularly. Our ELA department, I think I've mentioned earlier this year, is going through a curriculum review cycle, and they have been meeting. They've met actually twice, most recently in January, to start looking at certain aspects of instruction and curriculum, scope and sequence. One of the things they're really working on are establishing lit circles, which really provides a lot more autonomy for students to have some choice in what they're reading rather than everyone reading the same novel. Some of them are great, some of them aren't for everyone. So giving students some opportunity to read, but really putting the onus on students. They're going to have conversations with each other about what book they're reading. And there's a lot of practice that needs to go into that, and Katie Leahy, our ELA coach, is really leading the charge on that, and she's been working with Brian Maringer, the principal. And one of the most important things for this year, especially at the middle school, was really establishing our ELA coach and our math coach as part of the everyday processes there, because we didn't have either of those at the middle school last year, and now we do. So especially in sixth grade, that's really taken root. But across all grades, we've had some really good success there. So that's certainly a highlight for the middle school. And at the high school, the THS admin has really taken the lead on leading department meetings this year and having a primary focus be on instructional practices, trying to focus on inclusive practices, things we've been working on with our Inclusive Academy team from DESE. And observational data, walkthrough data has indicated that we are seeing much more of that. Our teachers are really trying to implement some of those things, giving students more autonomy, providing choice for them, really incorporating feedback as a common practice rather than just a once in a while thing. Feedback in ELA happens regularly because of the writing, but it doesn't always happen in other subject areas. So that's been a really nice thing to see that increase. We talked a little bit about the revised math pathway as we're going to be implementing it beginning next year, with all students taking an honors level Algebra 1 at least, and some students moving into geometry right away in ninth grade. Creating working groups for self-evaluation, as we've talked about here. They have their decennial accreditation process beginning with NEASC, and that's quite a bit of work for the staff, and they've been doing a nice job keeping up with the timelines there. And then just one last transition thing, because this has been happening over the last month. But students here at the high school have been meeting with small groups of eighth graders. They've been coming over and talking about the high school, answering questions that they may have about the high school as part of our increased transition work to make sure that anyone that might be coming to the high school next year is informed about what the high school has to offer. Their questions are being answered. Hopefully they're feeling more comfortable being here in the building, knowing some of the older students. And our counseling department has been overseeing that, and we've heard some really positive feedback there. So that's really the only transition thing I wanted to add in, just because it's been going really well. And I happened to, I don't know if eavesdrop is the right word, but I was in the library and they were working over there, so I just kind of stood there for a little bit, and our students are doing a great job, making sure that they're I would say selling the high school, but just making sure people are informed about what we have to offer here. So I'm really proud of the work that they've done there. So that's certainly an abridged version. There's a lot more going on, but I'm happy to entertain any questions that you may have.
I have more of a comment, couple comments. I really like to hear about the choices that we're offering to our students, the older students, as far as like middle school, having the choice to choose which books might pique their interest a little bit more, and giving our high schoolers a little more autonomy to make the choices that fit them the best. I think that's wonderful and amazing, because that's what they're going to be experiencing in real life. So thanks for incorporating that. I think that's really important for them, you know, as they're growing older and being able to make those choices for themselves. And I'm also really happy to hear that we're evaluating the high school math. And kind of, you know, trying new things is great. But I'm happy to hear that we're giving the opportunity, or considering giving the opportunity, to the eighth graders to take algebra in the future.
Yes, so just to give you a little bit more information on that, as part of the general math program at the middle school, our high school teachers this year, having had those students come through with that new program that went in, it's like new, it's a few years old now, said that compared to previous years, students are coming in with much more algebra content knowledge, and that they feel like they're all going to be ready for Algebra 1 when they get to ninth grade, and some students are actually ready for geometry. So it was a result of the data and the information given to us from the math teachers here that we were able to say, like, great, we can be a lot more flexible. Students are getting a lot of algebra, regardless of what the course is called in 8th grade, and they're coming in prepared. So I think our high school teachers were really happy about that, and that's why we're going to be able to offer everyone an honors level course their freshman year in high school. So it's a great job by Caitlin Tevepaw and Denise Downey in 8th grade, preparing them for their transition to high school. So
I love that. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whitlock. New business.
Mr. Chair, we'll jump into the FY '26 budget overview. Turn it to Mr. Messina.
Do we want to do DECA first?
Yes, we do. And I neglected to put that slide in, so I apologize. So the annual, completely my fault, the annual DECA trip, it's actually become annual recently, past 5 years or so, that Mr. Richall's really run with that club, and they've done a great job. So we're seeking approval from this committee to allow them to continue the overnight trip to Boston. Several kids qualified to compete at Boston. I wish I had all the backup information at the top of my tongue, but we've done this before. So you should need a motion and approval to go do the trip again.
Yeah, I will take a motion to approve the DECA state competition in Boston overnight field trip, February 27th to March 5th, 2025.
I will make that motion.
I will second.
Any further discussion? Other than I think it's a great thing. I think our kids have a blast.
Yeah.
We've had them in before to tell us about it, and I think it would be a good idea to bring them back when they get back to one of our meetings so they could tell us how they all did. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carries 4-0-0. Now the fiscal year 26.
We'll talk about the budget now.
Normally it's me that misses things.
Yeah, now I'll kick it to Mr. Messina.
I think the superintendent was so excited to talk about it that
So
he
excited
wanted
to
to
talk
jump
about
right
budget,
into it.
exactly.
So the first page I wanted to present that Mr. Woodlock has up on the screen is actually the overview of the expense page with salaries and wages highlighted. And that was because at our budget subcommittee meeting last Tuesday, I presented a salary number that was slightly over $89,000 less due to the fact that we took the 7 positions that have known retirees planning to leave and a resignation that had come in, and basically looked at what replacing them would cost us. So those 7 positions alone saved us about $89,000 on salaries. So the other number that we populated in this overview was the blue revenue number at the bottom. And Mr. Woodlock, if you could shoot over to the revenue page. Thank you, sir. So we did a deep dive in all of the various revenue categories. Most of those are coming in either level funded or very close to level funded, with 3 exceptions. Grant revenues, our special ed entitlement grant was actually some $80,000 less than last year. So that's triggering that 10.5% reduction in grant revenues, bringing tuition revenues and athletic revenues forward from last year with a similar number. And then the other source revenues, Medicaid is pretty much a 3-year rolling average that we budget. That's coming in slightly higher. School choice figure is again our planned balance of school choice at the end of June, and at this time hoping we come in about $17,000 more than last year. Historically, we always take $50,000 from the current budget year of school choice receipts and put that into your budget. And the lease money from the lease at the Lakeview School comes in at an even amount. And the last two figures, circuit breaker is always, we try to focus on using the revenues we get this year for next year's expenses. So we always have one year in arrears. As the superintendent mentions, they always promise to bring us in at a reimbursement rate that very infrequently, historically, comes in at that figure. So always trying to keep last year's receipts ready for that current year budget is always the best way to go. And then the last figure is the special ed stabilization. At this moment, we're only populating the town manager's pledge to put in $150,000 from free cash into the special ed stabilization account. And that's the assumption that the $449,000 identified in this year's current budget needs to be used to balance this year's budget. We're going to be doing a deeper dive prior to the 25th and just look at whether or not we can protect some of those funds and bring those funds into next year's balance for stabilization. So that's coming in the next 2 weeks. So, Mr. Woodlock, if we could pivot back to that first page, please. Thank you. So, at this moment, we have a budget that is 4.4% higher than last year. Our target budget is 2.7%. So at this moment, we have a variance of some $390,000 in addition to some additional positions that we spoke about in previous meetings that the superintendent is just going to highlight right now.
So if we jump to the next slide, these are not new to you. We've talked about these since January. And we came up with a list of six positions that we feel as though we need as a district. That being said, we are going to prioritize positions 1 through 4, and we'll hold off on adding a maintenance person to the middle school and appoint 2 school psychologists to the elementary school to potentially next year. But the positions in rank order, our top need is another BCBA at the elementary school. We know that we went down by a school psychologist last year on this campus. There is that need. That need is still there, has not gone away, and we are going to prioritize that in this budget. We know that we're going from, 80,000 square feet to 114,000, 112,000 square feet at the new facility. So we are going to need additional support, particularly in the lunchroom. We're going to prioritize a custodian at the middle school. And one of the things that just happened at the end of the year last year was we lost library support at the elementary school. So we are going to look to bring that back in some fashion moving forward. So those are our top 4 priorities. That being said, I think, Mr. Messina will have a graphic hopefully on the 25th that shows that we've gone down in staffing regularly over the past several years. We will continue to look at our class size. We'll look at where kids are trending in terms of class selection, course selection, and we will make some decisions. But these 4 positions are really non-negotiables moving into next year's budget. So we will have to get creative with how we staff those, how we fill those, as well as make up the $390,000 differential that you just saw on the previous slide. So Mr. Messina and I have been spending a lot of quality time together, and we will get there, and we will present a plan to you, or initial budget to you on the 25th, and we will kind of outline this is what we're going to do, and we think this is best for the district. I will also say that we do have a meeting this week with building principals to really talk about class size and how we can really maximize every dollar we're spending. Additionally, Mr. Messina and I are meeting with Town Manager Loisel and Finance Director Andrus next Tuesday to really talk, I think it's more about long-term planning for the school budget going forward in out years. So stay tuned for that. So we'll have more information next week after we meet with the principals and the town manager. But we have some thoughts, and we just got to sharpen the pencil and make it work. And that is where we are at this time for FY26. Happy to answer any questions.
I just want to comment that, I've been on the budget subcommittee for quite a few years now. Every year, I know it's a ton of work that goes in from Mr. Messina and his team, also from your team and the school principals. This year, you guys are really close already. We've had years where we've been a lot further off. So, I feel like we're looking pretty good so far. And thanks for all the efforts that are going into it, and we'll continue to go into it.
Thank you. I feel like we have a solid plan. We just need a few more dominoes to fall and have a few more conversations. But I feel good about where we're gonna be on the 25th. Anything to add, Joe?
No, fairly confident. And again, I guess what I would add is what I've continued to add probably since last year. The meeting of the 25th, we will present a model of what we think it looks like as of February 25th. I can guarantee you it will change and it will look different at the end of August when the doors open, but we will be there on the 25th of February, and we will be there whatever day in August we open for the teachers and the kids. So it is a model, things change. Simply, as I mentioned, looking at 7 retirees, it's $89,000 difference. If we have a resignation or a late resignation, last year we had 2 very late resignations, 3 actually. The model shifts a little bit, and it might mean less revenue for that year that we can bring forward into future years. But as Ms. Stanton and the superintendent mentioned, we will be in a good place on the 25th.
Excellent. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. And we're going to stay with you, Mr. Messina, for finance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 4 signing of bills. 10 warrants were presented to the committee tonight. I do have them all back approved. As always, in the drive is the list of warrant numbers, accounts, and amounts. For signing of payroll, in the drive are the last 2 payrolls for January 13th and January 27th. Warrant numbers, accounts, and amounts are in there as well. And that is it for finance from me tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. School committee discussion. We'll start with Evan.
None, thank you.
Yeah, I'll say congratulations, Mr. Messina, Dr. Flanagan. I remember the budget some years past and how far we had to make changes and everything, and this is a great start to it. Thank you, Mr. Woodlock, for your SDI update. As well, Dr. Flanagan, for the legislative update. It's interesting, having come in when education reform started in '94, special education funding and still per pupil and school funding still remain the major issues over 30 years. And you would have thought at this point we would have been past that, but these are still going. The only other thing I want to say is I am concerned with what's going on federally with the Department of Education and with budgets and money there. So keep an eye out, folks.
Cool.
Nothing from me, thank you.
I'm all set. Thank you.
I have big shoes to fill tonight sitting in this seat, so I have quite a few things. First of all, Mrs. Leahy and the whole cast and crew of Into the Woods, congratulations. Tremendous show. Really appreciative of Mrs. Leahy and all of her support staff for putting on such a great program. This is an amazing program for our students and for our community as a whole. So, I'd be remiss if I didn't call her out for that, on top of her day job. And then Mr. McMahon and I had some time to walk through the schools a couple weeks ago, and it was great. I always love these walkthroughs. Thank you for taking us through, Dr. Flanagan. Mr. Ogden and Miss Trainer took us through. We had some, at every school we stopped in the special ed class, which is not something I'd done before, but that was a really great experience. Kind of bonded with one of the students, which was really nice. But it was great to see all the students as a whole. We talked a little bit about the college credit courses and one of the classes that they've added for this year for college credit, which You know, for those of you that don't know, we do offer college credit courses in the high school. And the middle school, Mr. Maringer, like, hasn't missed a beat. It's like he's been there all along. The staff seems to respond well to him. The students respond well to him, which was really refreshing to see them bonding so well with Mr. Maringer. Just to see it firsthand was really cool. And then in the elementary school, I'm not sure if we all know, but Dr. Salmon is a celebrity. He's probably the favorite of all the kindergartners.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, they didn't care that anybody else was there. It was Dr. Salmon. And then a special call out to Ms. Gramer for putting on such a great science specialist class. We got to walk through that class and see all the different stations she has. And this is a new class for her this year. That was really impressive. So all the teachers in all of their classes were impressive, but just a special call out for Ms. Gramer for like putting on such a great program for our students in such a short amount of time. That was really impressive. That's all.
Great, thank you.
The only thing I have is I was fortunate enough to see the show Into the Woods on Sunday, and a really first-class presentation. They do an amazing job. The energy, the enthusiasm by the kids in their singing and their acting. The set design is just gets better every single year. It's just fantastic. I can't really say that I followed the story very well this year. It was explained to me that it was a mishmash. It was like a mishmash of grim fairy tales, and I thought that was a very appropriate description of it. But just a wonderful, wonderful presentation. I want to congratulate everyone involved with that.
So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it as a former theater dad. I went to opening night of Into the Woods, and generally with the first show, you're waiting for that hiccup, and it never happened. It was great to see it go off seamlessly and flawlessly. So congratulations to the cast and crew, and certainly Ms. Leahy, but all of the volunteers and the musicians. And I mean, there are a lot of hands involved in that, and just a tremendous production. So it was great. Got to bring my wife on a nice date night out. So.
Awesome. This one's really for Evan, because he really wants a school day that he doesn't have to, a snow day that he doesn't have to make up. So, but we do have a storm coming on Thursday, so keep your eyes and ears open, drive safe.
I will just say, Mr. Chair, the timing of this storm is horrible.
Awful.
Yes. It's the worst case scenario, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll check the weather tomorrow.
Yes. So hopefully you'll get a day off, you don't have to make up. Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah, thank you, everyone. We do have a need for executive session this evening to discuss the reputation, character, physical condition, or mental health rather than professional competence of an individual, or to discuss the discipline or dismissal of, or complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual. We will return from executive session only to adjourn the regular session meeting. I am seeking a motion to enter into executive session.
I make that motion.
Second.
This does require a roll call vote.
In favor?
In favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.